Hi, I'm Jason Bellamy at NSC 2013 in Louisville, Kentucky, and I'm joined by the keynote speaker, Scheidies. Aaron, you are a practicing physical therapist. You're also competitive in triathlons, and there's something else that makes you distinct, and what's that?
I'm also legally blind. I was born with a hereditary eye condition, juvenile macular degeneration, where I lose my central vision over time. So I currently have about 20% of my vision left, and so I do things a little different, and that's kind of why my mantra is, or motto is, see different with Aaron, so you kind of see things different. And so I do triathlons a little different, and I practice physical therapy a little different.
So let's go back. I mean, just even, you have this since you're a child. What made you think that you could do triathlons in the first place?
I actually always wanted to be a professional soccer player, but when I started losing my vision, my brother asked me if I wanted to join the swim team, and I used that as another outlet to get all of my stresses and pressures of society kind of, and it, from there I never knew I was going to go to triathlon. It's just you start off one thing and you start enjoying it, and you start looking for new challenges, and like I talked in my talk about resiliency, I just started to learn how to be resilient, and that led to triathlon.
And multi-time world champion, multi-time U.S. champion. You've been incredibly successful. Obviously, you do the, so talk about the adaptive things you do there. So you swim with the tether. Give me those examples.
Yeah, I didn't really explain too much about that in my talk. I swim with a tether, a bungee cord tether on my waist and my guide's waist, and he's the one that's really, he's like my eyes. He's the one that's seeing the course, and he swims side by side, and I feel the tugs to go left or right, and then we ride a tandem bike. He sits on the front. It's been a question on who sits on the front. Surprisingly, he has. And so he sits on the front, and then on the run we do the same thing with the side-by-side running tether. And it really makes the sport of triathlon, which is a lot more of a me-centered individual sport, more of a team sport.
And so when you're competing, I mean, what can you see?
Well, I just see, like in everything else in my life, I pretty much see blurry blobs, and I just try to dodge them. But luckily, when I'm racing, I'm going fast, and so I really need the guide to be my eyes and tell me what's ahead of me.
Why physical therapy?
I always want to be a physical therapist, mostly because I just have a compassion for people and helping people, and I'm a very passionate person. And then also I've always been fascinated with the human body and everything it can do, and so yeah, I always thought I was going to be in with like the athletes, the sports med, outpatient, and when I was in physical therapy school, I kind of fell in love with the old people. So I work at geriatrics now.
And how have you had to adapt your physical therapy skills given your condition?
I've had to learn new ways to do things. There's just such a reliance on vision when you have it, and in our society of such a visual world, that I've had to use more tactile, human touch, different, like adapting my goniometer to have raised dots on it at different degree angles. Things like that, I think, are the main things. And then different documentation with a closed circuit television that blows everything up really big, or voiceover. We use iPads at my work too, so that speaks to me and everything. So
given all that, given what you've been through, and given that you're talking to students, you could have easily gone with the message essentially of, you guys shouldn't settle for less, look how I've overcome. But your message was different. Your message was really about not limiting what your patients could do. And so can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think the message would have been still good if I just gave my story, but it wouldn't necessarily have been so much directed at how the students and therapists could take that to their practice, other than maybe a inspirational story that they could use. So I think the kind of looking at a disability different, and knowing that all of us and all of our patients have some sort of disability, gives a little bit more of something that they can utilize.
You mentioned that the number of times that someone's told you'll never be able to do something, and then they turn out to do it.
Yeah.
I had to think there are times along the way somebody told you wouldn't be able to do something, and you overcame that. Am I correct?
Yeah, and a lot more of, to be honest, it's been a lot more of people don't think you can do that, and then you have to prove them to really get them to realize that it's possible. You have to prove yourself to them, which is in some ways good, in some ways bad. It's frustrating sometimes to have to prove yourself all the time, but then when you do prove yourself, you know that you've educated somebody about everybody else in my situation and what they can do.
You talked about ways that you've adapted. In adapting, has that made you a better physical therapist in any respect? Do you think you're better at something maybe because you can't see as well, because you've had to adapt, that's made you clue into other things, be more attentive to other things that you might not have been otherwise?
Definitely. I mean, it definitely has made me learn how to do things differently, and a lot of times doing things differently can be better. And it's also made me have to be very flexible and be able to adapt very easy, because I'm always adapting, because everything in this world is not built around my vision or isn't accessible maybe to me. So I've had to be very flexible and be able to adapt to any situation. And so it's kind of allowed me to do that in the clinic, because every patient's different, and you need to kind of adapt and be flexible.
If you want to see Aaron's keynote address, you can do that on the APTA website for the next month. It's going to be posted there. You can also see more video dispatches like these. To see any of those, go to apta.org/NSC/video. Aaron Scheidies, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm Jason Bellamy. We'll catch you next time.